What's going on, everybody? Andrew Thompson here of the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel. Joining me today is a very special guest. This man is a current member of the Ring of Honor roster. He is a former AAW heavyweight champion, former Ring of Honor World Tag Team champion, NWA Tag Team champion as well. Brody King. Brody, what's going on, Chief?
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. This is it's been a solid week for me so far, man. Just as far as everything going on, I've been having a good week. So this is a great way to cap off the week interviewing the man himself, Brody King. So yeah, man, let's jump into it. Obviously, you got a match coming up that's airing on ROH TV on this weekend on Monday in certain areas. It's going to be you, yourself, and PCO teaming up with the Briscoes. Obviously, all of you have been in the ROH bubble. Like we've heard various accounts of what the ROH bubble has been like. But what did you do inside the ROH bubble to keep yourself occupied?
I usually take my PlayStation and I just play Call of Duty Warzone for 10 hours. I'll go to the gym for about an hour and then eat some food and then right back to Warzone in between, FaceTiming with my wife and kids. But that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And I had recently saw, I think it was a tweet that you sent out. It wasn't too long ago, but I saw that you was you was maybe interested in streaming, possibly. So we probably get some Warzone streams down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I've been dabbling over the course of quarantine with streaming and stuff. I was doing some like cooking shows and some watching wrestling and stuff. I got a little bit burned out on it, but maybe I'll jump back in the saddle soon once I get like a full setup. I'm trying to get like a new PC and get that all together.
Okay. And on top of of course, you're running ROH. You've been doing some work in New Japan for the New Japan Strong Show since like I say since like the late summer 2020. You've been on the New Japan Strong shows. Like, just tell me what that experience has been like for you. And is there like a inner hope there that you'll be able to head back to Japan and when it's safe to do so?
I mean, yeah, working for New Japan has been like a dream of mine. Since I started wrestling, New Japan was always like my goal, like where I want to be. And so to be, yesterday they like included me on their roster page now. So like that's really cool feeling. And, I got to wrestle great talents like Tama Tonga. I got to wrestle Kenta. Like those matches were, bucket lists for me. And now they're a reality. But yeah, I mean, hopefully New Japan Strong like starts to make waves and starts to become like more of a bigger show, and we can just keep pumping out the U.S. talent on a different scale, and make that I'll get into the G1 hopefully. I mean that's
the New Japan Cup.
Yeah, New Japan Cup. And maybe somewhere down the line you might see me on Wrestle Kingdom or something. That's a bucket list for me.
There we go. And but that New Japan Strong show, like that show features like a lot of like Southern California based talents, or a lot of talents that came from the California area. I think that's one like consistent thing that I've seen. Like just from you being on that scene, like do you think that the California wrestling scene has been one of the ones that has been impacted the most because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, because I mean California is probably the strictest as far as like this regulation stuff. So there hasn't been any wrestling shows out here. So for the talent that is able to have been on New Japan Strong, I think one, it has showcased some guys that I feel like have not been showcased. I wouldn't say properly, but like they just haven't gotten that opportunity yet on that big of a stage. And they are now guys like Tyler Bateman, guys like JR Kratos, and they're starting to really break out and show what they have to offer.
And like speaking of that California scene, I know you came from Santino Bros Wrestling Academy. Like I've heard quite a few good stories, of course, about Joey Chaos. Like I just wanted to hear like what your experience is working with him and collaborating with him. Like I've heard like a few interviews of people that trained under him, and they say like he's a very intense trainer in a good way, but like he likes to see every single person. Like he has that genuine emotion to like to see every single person that he works with like going to succeed. I was just wondering what your thoughts were, and like does that kind of align with how other people have viewed him that have trained under him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is, I always call him my wrestling dad. Like he's my world. He's a kind of, a tough love kind of guy. He's never going to bullshit you. He's never going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you what you need to hear. And that's something that I've always appreciated from him. And as a student, I've always succeeded more when I'm told exactly what I need to be doing and what I should be, opposed to like, oh, you're doing good, you're doing great, because then you don't really build anything from there. Like you're going to have tons of people in your life tell you like, oh yeah, that was a good match, and they're not going to tell you the stuff that they thought was bad, so you don't know that you did anything wrong. But someone like Joey will always tell you, like, well, it was a pretty good match, but you could have done this drop kick better, or you could have done this sell better, and you're like, oh man, like then you like kind of get that in your head for the next time, and it ends up working out. But yeah, Joey's a very tough love kind of guy, but at the end of the day, you know that he's proud of you, and he makes you want to be proud for him. Like I remember when I did Madison Square Garden, I gave him a text. I said, "We're doing it." And what do you mean you're doing it? But like I've always had a lot of pride in putting that Santino name on my back and trying to elevate the school in that way.
Mm-hmm. And like, do you ever sometimes, because like I think you've had a very successful career in professional wrestling. Like, do you ever like sit back sometimes and like just think like, damn, like, yeah, I'm doing this right now. Like, this is crazy. Like, because I'm pretty sure at the beginning, when you first getting started, it's like one of those things you probably can imagine where you would be some years down the line, but then when you actually make it happen, it's probably like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. You ever have any of those like self-reflective moments?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, half the time I'm like expecting it to all go away, like at any moment. I don't know why. I guess it's just me trying to keep myself humble. But when I started wrestling, like once I realized that I was capable and was doing pretty good at it, like I kind of gave myself like in 5 years I'm going to be successful at it, or I'm going to scale back and not do it as heavy, because I had a full-time job where I was working 50-60 hours a week, plus going to training 3 to 4 hours a night, probably sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night, on top of having a wife and trying to do stuff like that. So it was very mentally and emotionally taxing on me to like be doing that much, because I had a family to provide for, and I had these goals and dreams in mind. But I had to also be realistic that like I wasn't going to drag this out forever if it just wasn't happening. But thankfully the stars aligned, or whatever you want to say, and it all ended up happening. So
piggybacking off of what you just said, like I've kind of asked this question like quite a few times over the past like 4 or 5 interviews that I've done. Like, do you think that you're like, especially let's say since the pandemic started, do you think that you're starting to see more wrestlers kind of start to find other things that they can profit off of, or they can like venture into outside of professional wrestling and start to like more so treat themselves as a business opposed to just strictly relying on professional wrestling? Have you kind of like noticed that trend?
Yeah, I have actually, and it's nice to see, because I hate to see when people are like kind of like on a one track mind, and like if wrestling for some reason doesn't work out, or if it kind of falls out from under them, like what they're going to do to kind of rebound on that. But when people like you just mentioned Taya Valkyrie, like she's got her like clothing line and stuff that's going pretty good, and like guys making clothing lines or like doing anything else, like building stuff or making stuff, being graphic designers, like that stuff is huge, and that'll keep you in business much longer than your body will hold up in wrestling. So I'm glad to see more people doing stuff like that.
I mentioned in the intro that you're a former AAW heavyweight champion. For those of you who do not know this story of how Brody King lost the AAW heavyweight title, this man competed in a match. This man right here that you're looking at competed in a match with his jaw wide shut. Brody, you are a madman. That is all I have to say. but like I know you dropped the title to Sami Callihan in that match, but like and it was a steel cage match on top of that. Can't forget that detail. But like, man, just walk me through that, and I also commend you for that, because it also goes to show you that you didn't want to let the people down who came to see a main event that night, and you still fulfilled your end of the deal. Like I think that's real commendable. But you are a madman, and that's all I got to say.
Yeah, man. So like we always hear stories of like these wrestlers that had these crazy injuries that pushed through and did like crazy things, and you read about it, you're like, man, they're insane. Like there must be the toughest person alive, like Kurt Angle winning a gold medal with a broken neck, or like you hear about guys like Bob Orton that had a broken arm and he's still wrestling and stuff like that. But when you're doing it, it feels like you need to, like you feel like you're maybe like shorting the fans if you don't. So what had happened was I did a show. It was my last show for Santino's before I signed with Ring of Honor, and I was dropping the title there as well. And I had a match against Jake Atlas, who's now signed to NXT, and he did like a wild kick, and I didn't protect myself enough, and it just like went right underneath my jaw and it broke my tooth in half. And it had like a small fracture in my jaw underneath it. Well, I had to get emergency dental surgery to pull the tooth, and as the tooth got pulled, it fully fractured my jaw. So I had to then have emergency jaw surgery the next morning. So I slept with like it would look like a cartoon. I had like the thing like wrapped around my head, like trying to hold my jaw in place. It was the most agonizing pain in the world. But so yeah, the next morning I got jaw surgery. It was 2 days before Christmas, and the doctor said under no circumstances can you wrestle for at least 6 months.
Lo and behold.
And I got my jaw wires shut. I could barely breathe. My cheeks are all puffed out because it's swollen. And I was like, well, I got an AAW title match in 7 days, and I got a match against Darby Allin in a no ring match the day after. So sorry, Doc, that doesn't work for me. And yeah, I flew out to Chicago. I drank only muscle milk for like 3 days. It sucked really bad, but you know, I felt like this was my like farewell on the indies. So like, yeah, I didn't want it to be like, oh, Brody had to call out because he got injured and you know, now the title is vacant. Like, hell no, that's not what I want to be about. That's not what I want my record to show. I want it to be like, this psychopath stepped in a ring with Sami Callihan in a steel cage with his jaw wired shut. That's a much better story to me than than the latter.
So you know, obviously since then, like everything is like fully recovered now. Like everything good.
Oh no, my lower jaw from like here to here is like completely numb. Like I can't even feel my lip really. So like I'll start to drool a little bit sometimes and don't know it, but you know, other than that, we're good.
At least you're good, man. That's all we care about. But like, one thing that I was reading about, this PCO had did an interview. This was last year sometime, I think, and he said that you guys were supposed to be in the 2019 World Tag League tournament, but like he said, he think you had like an ankle injury or a knee injury or something along those lines. Were you guys supposed to be in that year's World Tag League?
Yeah, unfortunately we were, and it was honestly like one of the hardest things ever. So I tore my ACL in like a run-in, a random freak occurrence. I did like a pump kick and my knee went sideways, but you know, it didn't feel. I've so far torn both my ACLs, but it didn't feel like the other one. It felt just like a sprain. Like I was kind of limping a little bit. I went to the doctor, got it checked out, and they're like, yep, it's a torn ACL. I was like, damn it. So I had to, this was, I think, a couple weeks before we were supposed to fly out for New Japan. And I had to, you know, call New Japan and tell them that we couldn't do it because I had a knee injury. And I felt so bad because, you know, Carl or PCO, he hadn't been to Japan in years, or I don't know if he's ever been to Japan. I'm sure he has. He's done everything. Oh no, he did 0-1. I'm sitting here talking to myself. So he hadn't been to Japan in years, but I really wanted to be there with him to experience that with him. And the fact that we didn't get to do it, you know, that really bummed me out. If I could have, I would have. I mean, I've wrestled with plenty of injuries. I did, you know, Madison Square Garden with a broken hand. Like, if I'm capable, then damn it, I'm going to try my damnedest to be there. But I just couldn't do it on that one.
And talking about PCO, man, like that dude is like fearless. Like I've seen PCO do some of the craziest stuff in the ring. I'm pretty sure you have too. Like I'm just like picturing like all the times I've seen him like dive off the rope, like onto the ring apron. Like I'm talking about like just flat out, like not even trying to brace himself for the fall, like just. And then of course I think everybody remembers that time when he did the suicide dive to the outside, and then he had like that. Oh my goodness, dude! Like I remember I was watching that on the ROH Honor Club subscription site, and dude, he had like you could see like the opening right there.
Yeah, you're telling me I was.
Yeah, you was in the match, but
yeah. So he was supposed to do that and land, and then like I had both guys, and I'm holding both of them, and he comes around the ring, pouring blood, and I just see this gash in his head. I was like, oh my god! I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And like he didn't want to go to the hospital, and like there was, you know, that was a scary injury. Like, and then the next day he's got this crazy ass like stitches. I think he had like 60 stitches, internal and external. And then he goes, looks great for the gimmick, huh? I'm like, dude, what? Like, he looks like Frankenstein, but like he loved it. And I'm like, I would cry forever if my face looked back like that.
Did it take some convincing for him to go to the hospital and get that checked
Yes.
out? Because
Yeah.
PCO seems like the type of dude, like if y'all got to the back or something, he'd just be like, you know, it
He's like,
happens.
I'm fine. But like, he's like holding a towel on it every time he pulls off. It's just like gushing blood. I'm like, dude, you have to go to the hospital.
PCO, that's quite the dude right there, man. But I think one thing that everybody can universally say about PCO is that he puts everything out there whenever he go out there in front of anybody. It could be 0 people in the crowd, 500, 2,000. Like, dude is going all out for sure.
Oh yeah, he's a great motivator, especially for, a younger generation. Like, if you are not really, feeling the show, maybe there's not a lot of people in the crowd or whatever, like, you can always look at him and you know that he's going to go all out. So you better give it your all too, or else you're just going to look bad.
And lastly, here on PCO, like I did want to ask you, like, what did it kind of mean to see him win the ROH World Championship several years ago? Because, like, of course, like I think we've all heard the story about him, in the clique back in the day. They had their little back and forth that got patched up, of course. But like to see him, in his new reincarnation to win the world title, man, in a prominent company, like, was that like one of those things where you like, yeah, like right on PCO, there you go.
Yeah, that was definitely a special moment. All the boys were in the back, like applauding him when he came through the curtain, like that. Being so close to him, I knew that meant a lot to him. And like, he worked so hard to like rebuild his name and to like, get on a different path. And like, then when we started doing stuff together, like he was having a lot of fun with that. Like, we got to, be NWA tag team champions, and we got to be Ring of Honor tag team champions, and we were 6-man champions, and like that was all cool. But like when he finally won that singles championship, like that was a big moment for him, and I was happy to be there with him for that.
And I know back last year, before the pandemic, I think Ring of Honor had announced that you had re-signed with the company after initially signing in 2018. Like, but if you can recall, like, going through that stretch, like what were kind of your mindset as far as like, I'm gonna stick around in Ring of Honor, and like, your journey through the company thus far, and kind of like, your mindset now, as we've seen so many other people have like announced, the Ring of Honor has announced these deals with so many different people re-signing, and of course you re-signed last year. Like, kind of take me through your thought process as far as like, the reasons why that you decided to stick around in Ring of Honor.
I mean, it was definitely a hard decision because, wrestling is, or was, hopefully again, booming at the moment. And like, there's like so many other opportunities, other places, it's got places like AEW, WWE, like stuff like that. But I felt like I still had to hone my craft a little bit more. And I felt like Ring of Honor was always the place to kind of like really cut your teeth and become like a great professional wrestler. The talent that they've pumped out of there is proven. Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, and those guys are the best of the best when you talk about wrestlers of this generation. So having that Ring of Honor badge on my back, definitely, I felt like I needed to do like a singles run like I'm doing now. I needed to really make my name there first. And also, having them be partners with New Japan is just that added bonus. So I can be doing both and working on both goals at the same time. And, wherever I'm at in the future, I'll at least have that name and that reputation under me of being a New Japan or Ring of Honor guy.
And kind of transitioning out of wrestling here for a little bit. I know you had have a successful career in music as well with your band, the Gods Hate Band. Like, how much do you miss, the playing in front of crowds and stuff like that? Do you miss that kind of thrill? On top of course, we haven't been able to. Well, I mean, some promotions have been able to put crowds in front of fans, but like I know people generally mean like the arenas full of people. So how much do you miss playing music in front of crowds?
I mean, playing music or wrestling, I just want to, entertain people. And it's been rough not being able to have that interaction. But, hopefully we'll get back to that soon. I don't know when, but we just wrote a new record. So we got the material, we got the stuff to provide to people. We just need the okay and the crowds to do it in front of.
And about I want to say like 3 months ago, I was listening to a podcast that you did with my guys over there at Pro Wrestling Tees, Scrump and Dave, that do the PWT cast. Yeah, those my dudes right there, man. I like them. They're two cool dudes right there. But like one conversation that I really like from that podcast that like kind of stuck with me a little bit when you guys are talking about TV shows, and I really like the format that they have on their podcast. It's kind of like not wrestling, like they kind of just talk about everything but wrestling, and
Yeah.
I really like that format. But like one thing I did want to ask you, like as far as like shows that you've been watching, like, that you possibly watch, I was going to ask you, have you ever seen the show Mind Hunters on Netflix, or have you
Oh yeah.
heard of it?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
that is like one of my favorite television shows. I mean, one of my favorite Netflix series. Like, I didn't think I was gonna like it at first because, like, I don't know what it is, but it's like them covering, these people that were legit on this earth that did these things. I don't know why I found it so interesting. It's like I want to know what could drive a human to do stuff like that. And then like, I don't know what it is, but it's like that. That's like one of the best series that I've ever seen, man.
Yeah, hopefully they I know that it's been kind of like put on the shelf for now and they don't know if there's going to be another season, but I hope there is. That is one of my favorite shows too. I mean, ever since I was like a teenager, I was always, interested in
Right.
serial killers and like weird stuff.
Same.
And not like a, I want to become one.
Right.
Like you said, you just want to know like what would drive someone to be this way, or like how is somebody like turned into like a monster like that. It's great. But yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite shows as well.
You want to know what's funny? Like whenever I'm talking to somebody about like that show or anything of the sort, like I always use that same little blocker. Like before you say, you be like, I don't, I'm not trying to become that. Like, but it's like that's just something I'm interested in. But yeah, that's like legit, like one of my favorite shows. Like I really hope they do a season 3. I think because of course of the pandemic, things have been like kind of out of the way. So hopefully we get that back. But like one thing that I really did want to ask you, man, like I've heard a lot of people's opinion on this, or the people involved, but I don't think I've ever heard yours. Like that whole thing at G1 Supercard, man, with Enzo and Big Cass, like what was that like? Because I know Enzo, he's done press and said that that sometimes he said it was a part of the plan, and then sometimes he said that he just did it just to do it, and that was kind of off the cuff. Like of course I'm pretty like I don't know if you know exactly what that was supposed to be, but like just from your viewpoint when you seen that whole thing unfold, like I'm pretty sure I can speak for you and say like the first thing that came to your mind was like, what the hell is going on? Like was that kind of on par?
So there was a running joke where people would call TK from the Kingdom Mini Cass. Like they said that he looked like Big Cass. And this is funny because like I legit had no idea that the Enzo and Cass thing was happening. So after the match, I'm going over to check on PCO because he just got power bombed out of the ring onto the floor. So I'm like, PCO's dead. I gotta go help him out. I'm picking him up and I see Bubba and I see someone else running down the ramp to like break something up, and I look over and I see the Briscoes, and then I see who I thought was TK, but it was Big Cass. And I was like, there's so much going on. There's an entire arena full, of 20,000 people. You're in Madison Square Garden. You just had this like crazy match. The Gorillas of Destiny are having their moment in the ring. So I'm just like trying to get PCO out of there, make sure he's okay, and like make sure we're good. And then like we get to the back and I hear everybody going like, why was Enzo out there? I'm like, what? And like I had to go up to people like, yo, what is going on? They're like, yo, Enzo and Big Cass were out there. I'm like, what? Why? And I'm like, so I legit have had no clue that was happening. And if they were trying to make an angle or whatever they were trying to do, I don't think that it was personally the right way to go about things. But yeah, that's it is what it is, I guess. I think it kind of like overshadowed a really cool moment at MSG that I wish wouldn't have been. I felt like within the time constraint and within having a 4-way tag match, we really tore the house down, and I felt like that was overshadowed by just a stupid thing.
Yeah, like it's like the way that it was presented. Like I'm talking about specifically from Enzo, and I'm not asking you to speak on Enzo, but like just the way that I've heard him speak about it. Like sometimes he kind of plays it as if this was a big plan that people were, or some people were in on it. Then sometimes he plays it as like they just did what they wanted to do. But but I feel like overall it didn't kind of cloud the whole show. But I could see exactly where you're coming from when you say like it kind of took from the match that you guys were presenting, and like when people kind of think back on that, they kind of think of the run-in. So I'm pretty sure that you'll get you'll get your chance at MSG Glory again, man. Hopefully. But like one thing I did want to also talk to you about was, prior to the pandemic, one thing that you were gonna do was face Homicide at the Past versus Present show. Like how amped were you? How amped were you to face Homicide? And was that gonna be your first time wrestling him?
Yeah. So I mean, Homicide. That's like he's kind of one of my wrestling mentors in a way. Like, kind of like from a degree of separation when I started traveling wrestling, and especially when I went to AAW, guys like Eddie Kingston were like the locker room leader, and I Eddie kind of took me under his wing, and like he kind of gave me advice, and he was really there for me a lot of the time, and he really became a really good friend, and Eddie was Homicide was his mentor, so it kind of got like passed down to Eddie, then passed down on to me. And then I've been around Homicide a few times where it was like, I can see where, Eddie gets these different opinions on things. And then like hearing those things from Homicide and hearing the stories and like advice from him was always huge. So like having a match against somebody that I looked up to a lot and that I felt like I could learn a lot from, that was, I felt like that was going to be a really cool moment. Plus, Homicide coming back to Ring of Honor, that's a big deal. And like, there's only one Homicide. I feel like he's kind of an underrated talent when it comes to people talking about like the greats that have come out of Ring of Honor, because he was nuts. I mean, like, what other guy are you going to see put a bag over someone's head or suffocate someone with bleach and like stuff like that? That shit's insane.
So back over the summer, I had not over the summer. This was like, I want to say 2 months ago, maybe. I had interviewed Julius Smokes, and he said that like, cause he was supposed to he said that he thought he was going to end up probably managing Homicide on that show, like walking him out to the ring. So I thought that would have been like a real cool thing to see you interact with Julius, because everybody knows Julius from back in the early 2000s from ROH. Julius is hilarious. I would just tell like anybody that like I don't normally plug interviews when I'm doing another interview, but like if you gonna go listen to one, Julius is hilarious, man. That dude is legit funny. But like you mentioned people that come from from that early ROH or from the independent scene that have been around for quite a long time. Like I feel like another guy who really hasn't been able to get his flowers, who people really should start giving their flowers to, is Rocky Romero. Like that dude has been around for so long and has been consistent for so long, and in various other places. Like of course, he's done music, still is doing music. Like just from from you interacting with Rocky, you being around Rocky, and you working with him, obviously. Like, do you think it's time that people kind of like? And I'm like, of course, you can't force people to quote unquote give people flowers, but do you think it's time that people kind of acknowledge Rocky for what he's done and his contributions to the business?
1,000,000%. I mean, Rocky was one of my trainers, so okay. I am a little bit biased in that, but every time I watch him like wrestle, he is excellent. I don't think he's ever had a bad match, at least not that I've seen. And like you said, he's been good for so long, for 20 years almost. Like he's been at the highest level. He was Black Tiger in New Japan. He's held the IWGP Junior Heavyweight titles like 6 or 7 times. Like the stuff that he's done within wrestling is almost unmatched to anyone else. Like of his, being a foreigner or not, like he has done so much. And like tonight, he's having a match with Chris Dickinson on New Japan Strong, which I'm sure is going to be a banger. Like every time you see him wrestle, it is excellent, but I don't think people ever bring him up when it comes to being like, the most consistent worker. So I definitely agree with, he definitely deserves his praise, and hopefully, maybe this year his dream will come true and he'll become IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, I'd love to see that as Rocky Romero and not as Black Tiger.
Yeah, you want to know what's crazy? Like I was recently listening to, I think it was a interview he did, and he literally said that he said like his big goal is to win the junior heavyweight title before he's 40. I think he said that's exactly what he said. So if he wants to, like you said, he wants to win it as Rocky Romero himself, like not as as he did prior with Black Tiger. So I think that I think that's feasible. I think New Japan should give Rocky his fight at next year's Wrestle Kingdom, give him his big moment, man. But like before we wrap it up here, Brody, one thing I did want to ask you, like I don't know if you know anything about this, or I don't know if you heard anything, but like one thing I really did want to ask, like have you heard anything about PWG possibly coming back in the swing? Because I know they took they took a permanent hiatus. They announced a permanent hiatus at the beginning of the pandemic. Like, but they haven't ran anything since like I'm gonna say late 2019 maybe, or like
December 20.
Yeah. So like, I was gonna ask you, like you heard like any rumblings, like anything, like not and just to clarify to anybody listening, this is not anything official. I just wanted to ask you, like, because for somebody that has been there plenty of times, like have you like heard anything about this possibly jumping back up?
No, not really. I talked to a Super Dragon not too long ago, and we just got up and like see how each other were and stuff like that. But as far as like shows and stuff, I think it's just PWG is so reliant on the fans.
Yeah,
I feel like the fans are so much a part of the show as much as the wrestlers. So if we were to run a show that doesn't have fans, it's like, is there really any point, or is it going to like lose the magic of that? So I'm sure that that's a big part of what he's thinking about when he's thinking about coming back. Hopefully we're able to do a show this year. If not, I'm sure whenever we do come back, I always think about like, the indies have kind of gotten, pretty much picked clean of a lot of really great talent, and like a lot of guys in contract with, ROH or WWE or AEW. But Super Dragon always finds a way to find, that diamond in the rough that nobody knows about. Nobody had ever heard of Bandito, and then he came and blew the place apart. So I'm excited to see like who he brings in when it comes back. But I would really love to have that 4-way match that I was supposed to have in March of last year that got canceled. It was me, JD Drake, Black Taurus, and Caveman Ugg. It's supposed to be like a 4-way Haas match. So that's still one match that I really want, and I hope that everything falls in place and we can have that again.
You mentioned like just how much part of the crowd that PW, I mean how much a part of the crowd that I mean, lost my words right now, but like how big of a part the fans are of PWG. There we go. Yeah. Like how like integrated they are, and how crucial they are to the show. Like that kind of reminded me of like NWA Power. Like, and of course you were NWA Tag Team Champion, but like it kind of reminds me of that. Like I can't imagine that show taking place without fans. Like it just doesn't sync up at all.
Yeah, there's a few places that the fans are just a huge part of the crowd. Like AAW is one of those places. Defy in Washington is one of those places where you just have this dedicated fan base that is willing to be part of the show. They're willing to boo the heels and cheer the baby faces, and really play along with falling in love with wrestling and treating it like a sport, like it should be, and not sitting back and expecting a high spot or expecting this and that. Like they just want to be entertained, and I feel like that's a huge part of it.
It is, ladies and gentlemen. Brody, we're gonna wrap it up here, man. Please, anything you want to plug, please feel free. We're gonna make sure to plug it in the description of this video. Your merchandise, social media links, your future streams that are going to be back. Please feel free to plug anything you want.
Yeah, you can follow me at Twitter and Instagram at Brody X King. You can get all my merch over at Pro Wrestling Tees under Brody King, and you can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Brody X King. Like I said, I've been taking a little bit of a hiatus over the holidays, and I have a 5-month-old and a 2-year-old, so it's been a little.
Congratulations, man.
But thank you, and so hopefully we'll get back to streaming eventually. But yeah, thank you very much for having me on, man. It's been fun.
I appreciate you taking the time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Andrew Thompson of the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel, signing off of myself and the super father, Brody King. Brody, thank you for your time, brother.
Thank you, man. Have a good day.